Hello.
Hello, I'm Allie,
And I'm Andre.
and this is
The
the Love is Blind podcast.
Yes, I ended at Love is Blind. I forgot to say this is a podcast.
I thought you were going to insert a Sweden again.
No. I just forgot. I thought I was about to just say this is Love is Blind.
Nope, this is not. This is This is an after show podcast about the not popular Netflix show Love is Blind. And we're talking about the first season of Love is Blind, Sweden. Yes. So,
Specifically, right now we're gearing up to talk about episode 4, which is called
Physical Attraction.
And the description is
The pairs wonder if their physical attractions are at the same level as their emotional ones. The full group's first in-person gatherings leave a mark. Accurate.
indeed.
Before we get started, quick reminder to please follow us on Spotify. Like us.
Hit that little plus in Spotify. And then, follow us on YouTube Music or
Apple
Podcasts or, gosh, we're on everything. I put us on everything.
Andre's really good at this stuff. We're also on Instagram, Love is Blind Podcast. So you can like us or leave a message.
We're on Facebook too. You can contact us there.
Yeah. We just released an episode earlier today.
Yes.
We might release. Andre's like, we're not.
I don't know if we're putting this
We
one
might
out
not
today.
put it out the same day, but we recorded an episode earlier today, so we haven't had any new comments yet. I will say I'm very happy we're releasing another episode. It's really hanging over our heads how long it's taking us to do this season.
I'm okay with it.
You're more okay with it than I am.
I'm okay.
Yeah, that seems like our energy together.
Because then we always have something that we can do. We're just like, hey, we have a little bit of time. We could record an
We
episode
could
of
just
this.
do an app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very
true.
exciting.
It's true.
I like spending this time with you.
I enjoy it as well. And I was reminded when we were recording earlier today how enjoyable it is to record.
Yeah. I will point out, if anybody hears just like a low-level music where you feel like, is my neighbor playing music while I'm listening to this podcast? There's a good chance that that's just coming from us. There is somebody outside playing some music. I think we're shut away sufficiently that not too much should peek out, but that will probably only happen when the two of us are completely silent.
Yeah. We also are cat sitting. So if you hear a meow, that's Mewlington.
Mewlington meowing.
Yeah.
She's cute,
Not meow.
but she's also very old.
She's very cute and very old and very cuddly. She's very secure in Andre's lap right now. We'll see if she stays there. So physical attraction. So when we were talking about episode 3, I was commenting, and I think you were also discussing about how physical attraction seems to be a major thing for 3 out of these 5 couples. And that feels like a really high percentage of couples to be dealing with this. It's like I feel like it's usually one couple that this is a big thing for.
Is it just 3 out of the 5?
I think it's just 3. Yeah. I think it's Mera and Oscar
Lucas and Amelia.
and Katya and Christopher. But we have Chrisley and Rasmus who are all over each other.
You're
and
right.
like,
Sergio and Amanda have different issues.
they have a different set of things they're working through.
So we begin with Oscar and Mira, and Mira is introducing Oscar to just a wild, exotic food from her land. No, I'm kidding. It's yogurt. He's eating yogurt that he hasn't tried since he was a child. And he seems to be fine.
He's like, I don't like yogurt. And she's like, when did you decide that? And he says, oh, when I was a kid. She's kind of this whole episode and into the last episode too. She's in this like, are you too white for me? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if the dislike of yogurt. Anyway, I don't know if that's a white thing. I wouldn't.
Really, I feel like this is like plain yogurt that you'd get in a lot of like.
He's eating it with fruit. That seems like the whitest thing ever.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I think of like, Middle Eastern yogurt dishes.
Oh,
or
sure.
It's just from India,
sure.
right?
I
So
get
maybe
it.
like Raita or something.
I get
but
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's just like this energy from her of like, I don't think this is going to necessarily fly with our families, and I feel really intimidated.
Yeah.
And he's not loving this.
Yeah, I mean, she does mention that, when they were sleeping together in the dark, it felt the most like the two of them since the pods, since she had the moments of being able to not look at him. And he doesn't really know what to do with this information. I think he's just, he doesn't want to force her to be with him, obviously, but he's just so much more into her than she is into him by the look of it.
Well, I'll have a lot more to say on this couple as we go through.
Yeah.
I think it's just sort of introduced right now that there's this tension that she's concerned about. She calls it cultural, but I think it's culture and race. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure.
Well, it's not just that, because she's also in the beginning kind of opining maybe the fact that she made the wrong choice in choosing him over Johan. And I don't necessarily think that she thought like, oh, Johan is going to be less white than he is.
Yeah, I had the same thought, but I think Johan is representing something else.
Yeah, he represents a different form of masculinity.
Well, no. That's not what I mean. I mean, like...
Oh, just like...
in her mind. Have you... Like, she's caught in this love triangle, and her mind is going to Johan because he's the other immediate option, but really, I think, like, sub in not Oscar.
Right.
And that's a more accurate way of how she's feeling. But yeah, then the other... pretty big dynamic of this episode is Emilia and Lucas. Well, Newlington's awake.
So yeah, we see them working out, and we see Emilia slapping Lucas's butt to his complete like stoic face, almost like resigned to the fact that stuff like this is happening. Yeah,
that bothered me because she says... He says he wants to slow down, but I can't keep my hands off of him. Mm-hmm. And all I could think is if the genders were reversed here, we would immediately be thinking it's not okay. And I think it's like he said he doesn't want to move fast physically. And we understand, like, we're going to get into the reasons why. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is he said that, and she's continually violating this boundary. I just didn't like that from her.
Yeah.
You know?
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We get a brief look at Amanda and Sergio, and Amanda, says that she thinks everybody's going to think, he is exactly what they thought he was. And the word really is unpredictable, which is a pretty accurate representation of him, I would say.
I guess.
It's just like to your point of like him kind of having like not being super, like he's like a child, right?
Yeah.
So in that way, being kind of unpredictable.
Yeah.
We have Katya and Christopher, and Katya is expressing how she's excited to meet Rasmus, and Christopher is a little bit stuck on, okay.
Yeah.
I think he's thrown by that statement. But yeah, just a little bit of an intro. Really, the fun couple that we're seeing, the fun couple in the sense that everything is going well, is Chrysalie and Rasmus, who seem to be
our golden couple.
Yeah, they're doing great. They're having pre-gathering drinks and correctly assuming that they're going to be the couple that's doing the best.
Yeah, and like by far, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Rasmus this episode. When he was in the pods, I wasn't that taken with him. It was fine, but he seemed facade to me, which is, a thing I don't usually respond well to. I'm really liking him in this episode. He seems really sincere. When he interacts with Katya, there's no like, I'm torn. He's really dedicated to Chrysalie, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. And there is that one little brief cutaway where they show him talking to Katya and saying, I hope you miss me, or something along those lines. And she says,
In the pods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she says, do you say that to everyone? And he says, just you. And we know that he's certainly said that to Chrysalie.
Yeah, right. He was like in the pods, he was much more bravado, I think. Yeah. Yeah. But then we get to the party, the inevitable party where all of the couples meet each other.
Yeah. Emilia seems to be, we get a little talking head from Emilia where she says that she finds Christopher to be attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just slowly everybody's gathering around, coming together, and kind of seeing, like this is the moment where they get to see all of the people that they dated and might have had an interest in. Yeah.
Not as many love triangles. Usually these parties are chock full of like the love triangles coming to a head that happen in the pods, but there's really only the Katya, Rasmus, Chrysalie love triangle, and he's all about Chrysalie because I think not too many of them ended up getting engaged to somebody else.
Yeah.
The engagements tend to be like, this was the person. Yeah.
So there's, you're right. Katya and Oscar is a thing. Right? Yes.
No, Katya and Rasmus.
Was it Katya and Rasmus?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of Mira and Oscar.
I don't even think it was that. I think Oscar had somebody that didn't end up getting engaged to somebody.
Why? What am I thinking of here? I don't know what I'm thinking
of.
Yeah. Because Mira and Oscar are together. I'm doing okay.
Okay. So moving right along. We get to the scene where the host Jessica Almenas, I don't know how to say that, asks how people are doing and asks Lucas, and his response is challenging.
Yeah, she's like, how are things going? And he says challenging. And Emilia does not take that well.
Well, everybody else, I don't know if it could be editing, but it seems like everybody else there is like, oh my God, awkward, like feeling there's this German word, Frenchman, I think, which is like where you feel the awkwardness of someone else on behalf of them, like in a crowd.
Okay.
I'm trying to make fetch happen here. And they think they all feel for how it must be to be her in that moment. Because it's painful. And it could be editing, because notably they're not all in one shot when he says that, but Emilia's in the shot with him, and she's clearly, it looks like she's about to cry, and I understand. Yeah.
Because this is not something that he's told her.
He's been silent. He's been playing along. I think he's got a really hard time not being a very likable, affable dude. Yeah. And so it's really hard for him to be honest about how he's feeling, He's like, I've just got to be smiley and cool. And so he's been playing the game the whole time, and this is the first time she's hearing this. Yeah, I would feel really embarrassed and hurt. Yeah. Yeah,
to have not mentioned that at all before this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like either mention it before or mention it after. That's not the moment.
Yeah, in front of everybody, and then to kind of go into Dayan's party mode. I think it really hurts her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's understandable.
Mm-hmm. Katya tries to talk to Rasmus a little bit after. On the Emilia Lucas thing, I'm sure we'll have more to say on this, because this is, again, a very big theme of this episode. But there's a quick shot of Katya coming over to Rasmus, who's talking with Oscar and Mira. And I kind of got this vibe this whole time that throughout this party, in this scene with Katya and Rasmus and the next scene, that Rasmus is all about Chrysalie. So Katya's not going to put it out there, but she's kind of definitely like feeling out.
Yeah.
Is this solid? Is there room for me in this?
Right.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. She's just not into Christopher, man.
Yeah.
Right? Like, When I said I understand how Katya's feeling because I've been in similar shoes before. I also don't know that I would have gone over and like tried to make a move with somebody I dated in the past, you know? She starts to like, she's like crossing the line here, you know? I think.
That's a fair
fidelity
thing
line.
to say.
Yeah.
We see Amanda mentioning to the other women that Sergio thought of not coming, and Chrysalie is like, what's wrong with him? And this is an attitude that we then see kind of borne out from a lot of people being like, I don't get what you see in him. It's a good thing it's not me that he's here with.
Yeah.
I don't trust him. And everybody seems to have gotten a vibe off of Sergio except for Amanda.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I speculated last episode that this is maybe daddy stuff. Just so it's clear, I know nothing about these people apart from what's on the show. So, you know, I don't know, but I do feel like someone has taught her that this is how love is.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's hard to see because she seems nice. She seems like a cat. She's got all the stuff, but she's accepting this negative behavior, you know? Chrysalie, on the other hand, is like, I'm not going to call you out in front of everybody, but I don't like you and I'm going to barely be okay with you. And same with Christopher, who we saw give Sergio a talking to when Sergio was saying that thing about like, oh, I don't like that she was bullied, you know?
Yeah.
But Christopher is like, I'm not going to try to be competitive. I wish someone would just be blunt with Amanda.
Yeah.
And just say like, this guy sucks, you know?
And has lied.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know if it would fall on deaf ears because for whatever reason, she seems so into him.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I do not understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also see Chrysalie talking to Mira and kind of, you know, saying like, Oscar's such a nice guy. You know, he seems like an amazing person. Rasmus has spoken very highly of him. And you can kind of tell in this moment that Mira is like, I feel like she's kind of realizing that she's not going to get a lot of support from Chrysalie because ultimately like she and Katya kind of end up kind of coming together over their sort of, neither of us like our partners. Ha ha ha. And it becomes like this, I don't know. It's not a great look.
No, it's cruel.
Yeah. 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 It's unfortunate that this is like a dynamic that's forming.
I know.
Where they're seeing their partners there in this way.
Who both of their dudes are kind people.
Yeah.
I think I like Christopher more than Oscar, but Oscar's really been very kind, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have yet another brief unaware moment, like unself-aware moment from Sergio, who's like, we're the it couple. Where are you getting this from, buddy? I don't know.
Again, it's that polarization between idealization and villainization. That is a very signature of, I think, what he's working with psychologically. I feel I'm always dancing around it, you know, because I'm not their therapist, right? And it's all speculation, and I keep reminding myself it's all very, very heavily edited.
Yeah. We don't know exactly what's happening, but
we don't know what their motivations are really, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe Amanda just wanted to be famous, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the end of the story. So, I don't know.
Yeah. But we do have that Katya Mira moment where they're talking about their choices and how how Mira's regretting her choice and how maybe should have gone for Johan. Meanwhile, Oscar, I think, is starting to feel that too, because, you know, for a good chunk, or at least until last episode, he was feeling very strong. And I think he's starting to he's describing it as these ups and downs, right? And I think this is coming across to him a lot more than Katya's coming across to Christopher.
Yes, he's
Christopher,
picking up on
yeah, Christopher is like seeming, from my perspective, there's an aspect of it that seems like he's being oblivious to signals that Katya's sending.
Yeah. Well, we do see it at the end of the ep.
At the end of the
at
ep,
least right now.
But it's only to the extent that he doesn't think that maybe she is as attracted to him as he is to her.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's reading her body language in the same way that, you know, we're seeing it as a viewer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's really painful to sometimes see folks like this because they are so emotionally, you know, like, you know, someone like Oscar who's so emotionally invested in this
and sort of wears his emotions on his sleeve.
Yeah, and then same thing with Christopher, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait till we get to more of the conversations between Oscar and Mira because I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
But it's not surprising to me that Oscar's feeling like there's highs and lows. It probably is accurate that that's what it is because I feel like for Mira, there's like this, he seems like a good guy and we have this connection. So yeah, I'm going to make it work. And then, you know, oh, but he's also like a white dude, as we find out later, like represents basically my oppressor. And I don't know, you know, so I think she's very conflicted and the pendulum swings pretty aggressively for her, I think. So she probably does act really high and low and he probably perceives that, you know? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a moment with the guys where I was surprised to hear Rasma say, Sergio, you're the best.
Oh, I know.
Oh, what? Okay, weird.
No one thinks that.
Christopher
man.
is being like a little facetious, saying like, I'm all ears to listen to Sergio's plight.
Yeah.
And then you hear, you know, Sergio's take of how he didn't want to be here, how he felt like leaving. And you can tell that Christopher's not taking this well because he's like, Jesus. And then on the other hand, we're also seeing Amanda kind of giving her side of the story and how she's not, she thinks that maybe, you know, from Sergio's perspective, she's not invested in him. And I think everybody else is seeing this story.
It's like red flags.
Except for the two of them, you know? So, like, all the guys can see exactly what's happening. All of the women kind of see exactly what's happening.
Apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, yeah.
I don't necessarily know if Rasmus is even... he might be aware of what's happening with their relationship.
By this point, you know?
Yeah. But, yeah, we have Christopher kind of saying, I think, you know...
Amanda's been misled.
Yeah, she's been misled, and I don't want to like cause trouble here. But I think that this is not.
Yeah, he's
not my cup of tea. I don't really want to talk to him. He's a liar, and I think he's got him down to rights. So, yeah.
Yeah. Then we just hear the reveal that Chrysalie and Rasmus
are having sex.
Sounds like they went all the way.
Yeah, even though she wasn't going to, but then she brought up that she didn't want to, and he responded so well that I guess she got,
you know,
more into
there you
him.
Go.
And I mean, look, I can certainly understand that somebody respecting your boundaries
is sexy. Yeah. Listen to that, Amelia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like Amelia's lamenting about their connection, but this sort of like, you know, wraps up the party. And then we go to a scene of Lucas and Amelia.
Yeah, where Amelia kind of confronts him about the thing that he said in front of the host, you know?
Yeah.
How, you know, well, they first kind of talk about like how she spoke fondly about him, but then the fact that he mentioned that he used the word challenging was really difficult for her. Mm-hmm. And I think he continues to try to put this idea forward that he needs to take things slowly,
right,
as
which
opposed
is not the truth.
It's not it's not the actual truth, as we find out. But I think
It's an easier truth to deliver than the
Exactly.
truth. Yeah.
And I think she kind of is realizing that she can't continue putting herself out there if this is the thing that she's being met with.
She's starting to suspect that he's not into her for whatever reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, it's sad. There's a scene of Sergio and Amanda being fine, and then we get to Katya and Christopher where Christopher is laying it on thick, baby. They're brushing their teeth, and Christopher's like, "You're beautiful."
Which
and
he has been.
He has been.
He's constantly saying it. It's becoming more and more. I mean, he points it out, but it's becoming so much more awkward over time. The more it happens, that he's like, "You're so beautiful," and then she's like, and doesn't say anything.
Mm-hmm. And she looks like she would like to climb out of her body right now and go anywhere else if she could. You know, and it's so rough. It's so rough. Yeah.
Yeah, and
at this point, I think she should be saying something. If she's this clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so wild to hear Christopher's side where he's like, "You're so warm to me and you're so welcoming and I feel so accepted by you." And
yeah.
It's like, are you seeing what we're seeing?
Yeah. And I mean, on top of that, he mentions how he feels sad for Oscar, right?
Yeah.
And he, like, Oscar's more or less in the same position that he's in, right?
Yeah.
But he isn't seeing that for himself. He's only seeing that for Oscar, right? That Oscar isn't getting that validation. And meanwhile, I'm like, yeah, you're not getting validation either.
Right.
You're not. Yeah. It is, it's difficult to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that music in the background has certainly kicked up, hasn't it? Sorry, folks.
Welcome to our Love is Blind Sweden party. Yeah, there's some tension then we see between Oscar and Miera about her skincare routine, but it's short-lived. It's just, I think they're just trying to reflect that it's like a tense scene. You know? And then to titrate us out of it, they go over to our golden couple, Chrysalie and Rasmus.
We're having their Bloody Marys in the morning, and
doing great, continuing to do great.
Meanwhile, Oscar's trying, like, look, he's bringing up like breakfast in bed.
Yeah, he's trying,
and he is noting the fact that everybody else seems closer than they are, and how tough that is, right? How hard it is for him to not really be able to experience this, like, emotionality with her, or not emotionality, the physicality with her.
Yeah.
That she is just, she's in a different place, as he describes it. But yeah, it's really hard. I keep saying it's really hard to see. I just wish that the people were more honest with each other.
People just need to be forthcoming. I think
that's what it is.
People have a hard time being direct.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's easier to like pretend than it is to be honest.
And hope that the other person will pick up on it
and just kind of end it on their own. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe even stop caring for them.
No one wants to be the jerk, but it's like a jerkier thing to speak up. I do think for Miera, she's not.
Sorry, you meant it's a jerkier thing to not speak up.
Oh, to not speak up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for Miera, like, I do think she is torn, because I think, like, if she can separate him out from apparently the people in her life that have looked like him, that have made her feel the way she's felt, then she likes him individually. But he, she shares that she is an immigrant, and I have heard that Sweden, much like the US, I've heard maybe even more so, which is hard to think about, but or imagine, is really, really not welcoming and harsh towards immigrants, especially someone who's a person of color like she is. And she seems to have experienced that quite significantly. And I think there's ways she could deliver that message to him that maybe he would get more. He also doesn't seem to have done basically any work examining his own privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Even there's a scene later. I sort of, I'm like, I can't wait till we get to the scene where he's like, I was bullied, you know, which is like, okay, it's not nothing that's significant, but it's just not. There's ways in which that's similar, and you're also missing a big thing that's very different.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, maybe when we get to that scene, I'll say more, but this is, I think this is her dilemma. She hasn't totally ruled him out yet. She's just like, can I look past this? Is a question mark.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's understandable
Mm-hmm.
to be where she is.
Mm-hmm. And I recall when we were talking about her in the pods, your take was that she was more elusive and the guys were coming at her very, very hard. So who knows how much she ever felt towards Oscar in the first place, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously something significant, but he might have always been more into her, and now things are playing out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I do wonder, and I mean, I don't mean in any way I feel like this is going to sound terrible, but like what she expected out of this show, you know, who she expected that she was going to be meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, I think that there's a part of the entire experience that it might have been, I want to start dating somebody who potentially doesn't match my background, right? So it is odd
easy
that
to say in theory.
Yeah, and then for her to be confronted with it in actuality is something that she's having a hard time with. But I also think that there's a good chunk of that may just come down to the fact that she's just not attracted to him.
Yeah.
That it might have less to do with that, and that the things that she's mentioning might be a thing that, while true, isn't the actual reason why she's having a hard time with Oscar.
You could be right.
I think what she's having a hard time with Oscar is that she just doesn't find him attractive. And we get a glimpse of that at one point when Katya points out to her, doesn't he look like that
Penn,
whatever his name was, and he's attractive, and she's like, exactly, it's not like he's not attractive.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing for her that she's not fully admitting, you know. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, but it's an easier thing. It's an easier tack to take what she's the approach that she's taking, which is to say, I think that our cultures are going to clash.
Yeah.
Because it's something that he can kind of say like, oh, okay, I completely understand, versus what is probably the more painful thing to hear, which is, I'm not attracted to you. I don't think you're attractive.
Could be spot on with this one, Andre. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be both.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of both. Yeah. We get a little bit of Lucas and Amelia in the morning, where, you know, she's like, how did last night change things for you? And he makes the worst possible joke by saying it's challenging.
Yeah.
And she clearly does not find that funny at all.
It's not funny. Yeah.
And she's kind of admitting to just kind of say like, look, I'm gonna shut down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm putting myself out there, and I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to be this vulnerable if you're going to not meet me where I am.
She asks the question, is this a best friend relationship for you? Which I think is a very kind way of saying, are you not attracted to me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can't deny it.
Yeah, and the way he puts it, I don't remember if it's in this moment or later, where he says, look, I don't want to just shut myself out from the fact that I'm not attracted to her and to just sleep with her to give her the thing that she wants, because that doesn't feel genuine. And, you know, from her perspective is, why would I want to be with somebody who doesn't want to touch me? And I see both of their points of view, and the big disconnect is the fact that Lucas isn't being honest with her.
I think he's starting to feel a little relieved that she's bringing it up affirmatively.
Yeah.
And so he's, not feeling great, but he's feeling relieved a little. And then she's, feeling awful. Feeling awful. Yeah.
And then with more of this dynamic, we have Katya and Christopher.
Katya's being the most affectionate I've ever seen her towards Christopher here. When they're this is when they're on the beach and he orders the like sunrise surprises or something.
I think Katya's trying really particularly hard in a way that maybe, from that perspective, Lucas isn't trying in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Katya's trying really hard to say, like, I see who the person is that I, fell for in the pods. And she's just having a hard time matching it up with a person that she's just not attracted to.
Yeah.
But I think she's trying her hardest to just think of him as the person in the pods. But she says it, he says it, that he's just kind of a step ahead from their perspective. I think it's more than just a step ahead, because she's just assuming that she's going to somehow catch up. Mm-hmm. Not even catch up, but that like her attraction is going to continue to grow. I don't necessarily think that is how that works. Maybe I'm wrong in this, but I
think
for the most part, like there are ways in which you might come to love a person from, for their personality as you learn more about them. But when it comes to physical attraction, that might be more difficult to just sort of cultivate, just by the sheer virtue of being with a person,
I've definitely had people that I wouldn't necessarily have looked at them and been like, oh, I'm so attracted to you. But through getting to know them, I've become attracted to them. I certainly have had that experience many times in my life, but I feel like she's hung out with him now long enough that she's going to get a sense of whether that's happening. And I'm also remembering he was her Rasmus rebound. So who knows how much she was ever really into him. I remember him saying where he lived in the pods and she was like, no, thank you. Right. So I think he was her rebound to begin with. And then he's not what she pictured for herself.
Yeah. But it is.
I think she wants like a Lucas or an Oscar.
It is a bummer that Christopher is like, it feels so great to be treasured by you.
I know.
And I'm like,
read the room, dude.
Well, it's not just that, but like that really speaks for me volumes to the kinds of relationships that he's been in.
Yeah, you think? Yeah, I guess
that
that's a good point.
that he probably is like, this is so much better. That like you're treating me so much better than I've been treated before.
Oh, painful.
Yeah,
painful.
To me, that's what it says to me. And the fact that he's not noticing what we're perceiving as this coldness, and he's perceiving as being treasured and loved. I'm like, man, I think you've had a hard time.
I think he has. I feel like he was bullied a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he struggled with being an outsider for sure. So,
yeah.
Then we have the maze scene with Sergio and Amanda. That seems to go well.
Yeah.
You kind of see why they're into each other. They're both playful, I guess. He probably brings out a playful side of her.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's nice that it's not all awful.
But it's wild that the one thing that she's kind of concerned about is that he's gotten cold feet. That's the thing that she's clung on to, as opposed to like he's also lied to you, and he's also
right, yeah. Then we have a scene with Oscar and Mira, and they're going out for Cypriot coffee, which I imagine is like Cyprus coffee. And that might be the way you adjectivize Cyprus. I don't know.
Cypriot? Yeah.
Cypriot? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and he's asking her about it. And this is, I think this is the scene I've been waiting for, where she tries to explain where she's coming from, and he shares that he was bullied. And this is a big, I hear you. It could be that she's just not attracted to him. I don't think it's nothing though, what she's saying about, I'm guessing that people who looked like him really gave her a hard time. when she was growing up. And so it's like she can't divorce that from him. And it's the classic like white privilege thing, you know, where you're like, but I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
And so why can't you see me for who I am? Because I'm not personally a bad person. And that's, I'm sure, very true. He seems like a very nice person, but he also does not get that things have been very much harder for her because of how she looks in a way that have just not been true for him, that he's never had to actually think about, you know?
Yeah.
And I think when he says the thing about being bullied, she has this feeling of, you totally don't get what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, I think she could be more direct. I think she could say something like, if this were true, right? And I hear you that she might just not be attracted to him, but let's assume for purposes of this hypothetical that she is. That, listen, I really fell for you. I really want to get to know you. I'm having a really hard time like this because people who used to look like you look used to make me feel horrible. And it's just really, I'm just really having a hard time overcoming that. You know, I feel like something like that, if he were receptive and grounded, he could be like, tell me about it. You know, tell me what happened to you. I don't know. It might be a big ask. Again, it seems like he's done basically no work examining himself in this specific way.
Yeah.
But
I agree with that.
it's there. Yeah. It's there. Andre has paused.
I of
the
course
screen.
I had to pause this because the entire scene between them, I couldn't get over the fact that every time Oscar brings a bite of food to his mouth, he opens his mouth
Like a boa constrictor.
so wide. Look, seeing this, I'm there's a part of me that's thinking, is this why I sometimes get food in my mustache? My tiny little mustache.
Not opening
I'm
wide
not
enough?
opening wide enough, but man, this seems extreme. This is just take a look at Oscar just eating a bite of cake.
We're at 33:48 for anyone who's interested.
Yeah, go to 33:48, episode 4. Just pause.
Yeah.
Anyway, just, you know, me noticing random details that shouldn't be noticed. But yeah, no, I'm very much with you on the fact that he's lived an unanalyzed life from that perspective.
In many ways, right?
Yeah, and this is just an aspect of his identity that he's never had to, look into, and he is, he's trying to connect it to a thing, but in doing so, he's just revealing that he doesn't fully. Right. He's not fully grasping what she's talking about.
Yeah. I mean, he is sharing, he understands what it's like to be an outsider. I feel like there could be a connection via that, but she's not being direct enough or whatever about what she's actually feeling. And he's not, the unexamined life is a good way of putting it. He hasn't done enough examination on himself to be able to pick up on it, you know?
Yeah.
So...
Meanwhile,
yeah, it's not that his example is necessarily bad. It's just he thinks it's the same, and
yes,
it's not.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have Chrisley and Rasmus who are like, "Oh my gosh, we're so perfect.
We've gotten even closer.
Is it a problem that we're so perfect?"
Yeah. And, she makes the point of just saying I'm going to cling on to this so that, if ever we start having problems, I can just remember these moments, which maybe is foreshadowing. Maybe. But, they're having a lovely time doing some orange picking. She's talking about him snoring and how relaxing it is. So that's kind of cute.
Oh, yeah. They got their love goggles on for sure. So then we come to a scene with Lucas and Amelia getting a massage, which was so wild to me because the last scene we had was him basically not confessing to anything, but her picking up on how he wasn't attracted to her and them spending time separately. And I kept thinking, if I were in her shoes, I think that would be my cue to maybe go home. So it's so wild to me that now they're doing this like couples massage and having wine.
I mean,
You know?
I'm sure there's an aspect of this where she thinks that he's trying really hard, right? But I think
She's not ready to call it yet.
yeah, and I think that the issue is that he still hasn't said what it is, right? He's still continuing.
Yeah.
He's continuing to say is I'm trying to move slowly, but this is hard for her, right? She describes that she feels like she wants to cry, and that the physical part won't come on its own. I mean, we see post massage that he's doing his attempt is just having his hand on her leg, right? That's his attempt at like closeness. But I think she's giving up, right?
Yeah.
She is into him clearly from a lot of different points of view, but I think she's she's holding on to hope that this will work out.
And maybe I think maybe she's just totally shut down and too heartbroken and processing, and is like, I can get through the next couple days. Maybe she thinks leaving would be like a lot, and she's not really ready for that. That's probably, I think, maybe what's how I would feel, actually. But
Yeah.
maybe she's hoping that something turns around.
Yeah.
This is a rough ep, man.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go back to Mira and Oscar, and Oscar's now mad, and passive aggressive.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah. It's this
brushing their teeth. This is the brushing their teeth.
yeah, when they're
thing.
brushing their teeth, and they're having a sort of like they're kind of like bickering a little bit, right? And he's kind of holding on to this sort of facade of like being smiling, while at the same time being like, you know what, this is I guess this is what life with her is. It's up and down, sweet and sour. I'm like, I don't know.
He seems really, again, he's a surfacey dude, He wants things to be good all the time. And so when they're not, he doesn't really have the capacity. I do think, again, an unexamined life,
Yeah.
He's probably not had a lot of adversity. I mean, I guess he was bullied. I do not know what that looked like for him. And that could be a really very big deal. So I do not want to assume, but it could just be his coping mechanism for that, to like have everything be good, but
Yeah.
he's also incapable of saying like, hey, you seem not into me. I'm not feeling very good about it. Can we talk about it? People,
Yeah.
we could all just be a little bit more direct.
Yeah.
It'd be good. Yeah. I don't think you'd have a show. I don't think the show would exist if people just were more honest with each other.
Well, yeah. But humans are humans.
In Love is Blind Brazil, one of the seasons, one of the contestants, I'm totally forgetting her name. She's a redhead. Sorry, but she at some point says, I don't think you're attracted to me. And he says, I'm not. And she does go home. It's the only time I've seen it happen on the show.
Well, yeah, I guess that is how that could go.
Yeah. So, yeah, then there's another group hang with a camper bus.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the presence of the camper van threw me off, because I thought it implied they were going somewhere, but I think it's just backdrop.
Yeah, just there.
We have Christopher is really donning that bandana,
That bandana
hard.
is really there. Yep.
We also have Sergio coming in looking like, I love the fact he comes in with like a sweatshirt and a backpack. I don't know what he seems to have gotten a different note than everybody else.
No, I think he's just doing Sergio all the time. I think he got the same note. Mulington is needing to be let out, so Andre's going to go do that.
Meeting out of our room.
Yeah. Then we have a pretty cruel scene, I'd say, between Mira and Katya, is where she says where Katya compares him to some, I have to imagine, celebrity from
Swedish,
Sweden. And then she says, well, he's attractive. And Mira says, exactly. That's why he doesn't look like, it's a cruel, it's a cruel scene.
Yeah. And then Katya goes to Rasmus in this kind of like more of this play that you're
still
talking
feeling
about.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And clearly kind of flirting with him, right? And like not just feeling things out, but yeah, I think she's purposely being a little flirty because she's trying to understand what it's like,
Right. She's like, I'm cute. Come on, don't forget about me. Yeah. She's just not looking good here.
Yeah. And Rasmus, meanwhile, is kind of saying like, look, I just wanted to say you're a really nice person. Enjoyed our time together. I don't know if he comes out and says it, but I think he's just also like, yeah, but I'm happy with Chrysalie. I'm having a great time. So, yeah, I think he is. Yeah, I think from his perspective, everything is going so well, and I think
that's his concern. Everything's too good.
And I think even Katya's kind of like, oh, okay.
Do you think he gets that she's flirting with him?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No.
Yeah. He seems all in with Chrysalie. This is why I was liking Rasmus. I was like, okay, dude.
Yeah.
I see you, man. Yeah. And Katya says the thing about Christopher DJs.
That's the first thing I've heard of. I mean, we've known that he's self-employed and handles the toilets on his island. I didn't know he also DJs.
It's a real thing that she's speaking to, that he might be busy too much, but it's like, that's not why you're not into him,
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's starting to plant the seeds for her to make an exit from this relationship I'm just not into him.
Yeah.
It's like that Sex in the City. I'm just not that into you. That's what we need,
Yeah.
So yeah, then we have I think an important scene with Lucas and Christopher where Lucas is saying he's not attracted to Emilia, and
he doesn't want to be fake.
And then on the flip side, we have Christopher opening up about he thinks Katya might not be that into him, you know? Yeah. And this is interspersed with clips of Emilia talking to Chrysalie and Emilia explaining that, like, Lucas is just not that into her and she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's just it's a tough.
Yeah, I mean the end scene of kind of there's a moment where both Christopher and Lucas are just kind of like staring out at the sea, and you can tell they're both a little bit lost.
It's they're funny that like Christopher is in Emilia's shoes, right? And
yeah.
Weird that Christopher can listen to that so much and just like still not that much of an impact, Yeah.
I mean, also Christopher's line when he says, "In the dark, all cats are black." I mean, okay, buddy.
All cats look the same in the dark is how I've heard it. But yeah, Christopher's a unique dude, He's
that bandana.
That bandana is, it did not come to be a wallflower, all right? And I appreciate that he's doing him.
Totally. And you know me, I like to do me too. I like to wear my proverbial bandana as well.
Yeah.
From time to time. I will.
But that's more of a match for my personality. I don't think Katya's like that. I think Katya's like, very classic style. Like she's, mainstream, right? At the end of the day.
I think he's just not picking up on that, or not picking up on the fact that she's thrown by the fact that he's not like that, right? That's a thing that whether he likes it or not, that's a thing. Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to say like, hey, Christopher, be less like you, so that she likes you. But I also don't know if he notices that that's a thing that's happening.
Yeah, it's more like, Christopher, you're great,
but I don't think that this is the right connection. It's not a
fit, Yeah, it's not impossible that it would be a fit, but it's not for her. And yeah, like, take care of yourself, dude. I think he's experienced a lot of rejection and bullying. And your point about this might be the kindest someone's ever been to him is well taken, you know, and something to think about for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So then we have a scene.
Oh, this is
Sergio and Chrysalie.
Yeah, Sergio and Chrysalie, where you're just kind of like, okay, Sergio is off his. Man, she is being pretty blunt and honest about her first interaction with him, which it's not. She's not saying this to be like, remember how silly you were? She's saying it to be like, you were an asshole. You acted weird and off-putting. And he's just laughing about it. He's like, haha, wasn't that funny? That's me. I like to provoke. That's totally me. Like, I don't understand how he's taking this. He seems to be saying, like, that's exactly what I was trying to do. Like, I hear you. That's totally what I was trying to do. And it worked so well. Look at you. You're not here with me.
Well, this is a man who can't say I'm sorry, right? But yeah, I think he's trying to play it off like it's this big joke. And Chrysalie's like, no, I'm not, I'm going to be polite enough, but I don't like you.
I mean, I like the question where she says, isn't it self-destructive to do this in a situation where you want to find a life partner?
She's talking about his like provoking questions as he describes them.
And he ignores that question. I wish she would have answered that question.
Well, at least they edit away from it.
Sure. That's very true. But I would have loved to hear what his take was on that question.
No. I want people to get to know me who I am. I guarantee you that was his response, you know? Yeah. And Chrysalie's like, I'm worried about Amanda here. Yeah. It's something, I don't know. It's just shocking. Like we said, that Amanda's not worried about Amanda, I don't know.
Yeah, and you can tell Chrysalie's just worried for Amanda, right?
Yeah.
She's just worried that Amanda's going to get hurt by this chaos, by his not really caring, by trying to be provoking. Yeah. And then we have a very interesting scene, I think, between Amelia and Christopher, who are in this kind of in an interesting boat together, right? Because they both find their partners attractive and their partners don't find them attractive.
Yeah.
And, meanwhile, Christopher's kind of building up Amelia by saying, like, Lucas thinks you're great. Yeah. Lucas thinks you're incredibly smart. Lucas, like...
He's enamored.
He's enamored with you. And this is also a moment where it strikes me once again that Amelia did say that she finds Christopher attractive. So... there's still a part of me that thinks like, are these couples
You're gonna hope they're gonna get together?
I keep thinking that they're going to swap at some point.
I would love it if they got together. They seem like they could, be a match.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm thinking, that they would just, Anyway,
and I think Amelia's trying to hear that, but is like, and it makes her feel better, but it doesn't make it all feel better.
Did Katya ever date Lucas?
It wasn't highlighted. Yeah, no, Lucas was Carolina and Amelia.
Carolina, that's right. And we do know from a little preview at the end of the episode that Carolina does make a comeback. So that'll be interesting.
Everyone's opening up to Christopher. Meander's like, he's so traditional. And Christopher's like, I get it.
Yeah, he works at a bank and he's a pilot and an elite swimmer. Remember that line?
Yeah.
Everybody says that I'm an elite swimmer who's a banker and a pilot. So they don't really know the real me.
Mieta is like, I don't know if he's like me, I get that. I feel like I, as a person, have had to do my own healing, from stuff I've been through. And when I have dated people who I don't feel like have had to go through that, there's a part of me that's like, I just don't know if I connect with you, like, it's not like I'm writing you off. Like there could be still something there, but I definitely note it as like, this is a disconnect and, this is tough. It matters. If you feel like you've overcome something, there's something to that. Yeah.
There's definitely, I agree with that.
So, and then it just cuts over to Oscar, who's like blowing bubbles with like his sweater tied around his. It's like, come on, man. Lean
Oblivious.
in, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to watch like Jenny Jones back when like, talk shows were a thing. I watched Jerry Springer too. And like Jenny Jones was like maybe right before or after or something. And whenever she'd make over people, she'd always have them have that like cable knit sweater like tied around their necks. It was like their makeover. And it was like the most preppy makeover ever. And I like that he's just like sporting this look at a time when Mira's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we get a preview because I'm imagining when this first came out, this was the end of a chunk of episodes.
Yeah. Part 1, part 2, probably.
Yeah. Of what it's like for them to all be living together and conflict happening. It looks like even between Chrysalie and Rasmus,
or at least their dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who's gonna get married.
Well, that's the weird thing, is that there's this moment between Christopher and Mira where they're kind of saying like, if the decision came today,
She says no.
She'd say no.
Right.
And I think that like that is, unlike many seasons of the show that I've seen, this is more true of more couples. Like the 3 of the couples, I think they're all in that. Not just the idea of I'm not sure yet, but that they're like I'm at a no right now, and I'm hoping that it changes.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's kind of wild. Having the one thing that has changed is the fact that they've seen each other.
Yes.
Right. So we went from a yes in the pods. I don't know who you like. I don't know what you look like. I see you. Now it's a no.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna keep pushing through it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder if that says anything about looks in Sweden. I wonder if it's a coincidence, but it is something noteworthy,
Yeah.
But yeah, then I'm sure it looks like we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But
all right,
is the end of this episode. Again, if you like us, please follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, YouTube Music. Follow us on Instagram, like us, leave us 5-star only reviews.
Yeah.
No negative. We're not willing to examine ourselves.
Love to get more reviews on Apple Podcasts, because at least you get to write something out, and we'll say your name.
We do love them. Yeah, we do. We do say the names usually.
If you want to be funny and write one of those joke names, we're into it. I promise I won't notice it until I say it out loud.
But we do really love interacting with you all. Seriously, it's so good. It makes our days every time we get a message. So please keep them coming.
All right. Till next time, y'all. We'll come back for episode 5.
Bye.
Bye.